Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Very good morning and welcome along to the Euro 2020 show here on Off the Ball. Shane Hannon with you for the next week. This time next week it'll all be over. The final will have taken place on Sunday. We have a few more episodes to bring you, of course, this week. Spain against Italy tonight at Wembley from 8 p.m. in the very first semi-final. We have a show both obviously today and tomorrow. England taking on Denmark tomorrow evening from 8 p.m. in Wembley Stadium as well in London, and then, as I said, the final on Sunday. So plenty of action. We'll have a show on Friday as well with Eamon Dunphy, and then next Monday with Damien Delaney we look back on the final, of course, and the tournament generally as a whole. We are live in the usual places this morning as well. OTB Sports Radio, you can get that on the OTB Sports app, which you can download for free in the App Store or the Play Store. We're also live as well as usual on video on the live stream, youtube.com/Off the Ball, on Facebook, and indeed on Twitter as well, at Off the Ball. And as per usual, our OTB Sports Euro 2020 show is live with Paddy Power's Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England scored at the Euros. So €80,000 in the kitty so far for the 8 England goals to date. Of course, they'll be looking to add to that tally at Wembley Stadium against Denmark tomorrow evening. One more week to go, as I said, less than that in fact. A few more episodes to go this week. Richard Dunn, the former Irish international and Manchester City captain, will join us very shortly on the show this morning. Can't wait for that. But first, it's our own Team OTB's football connoisseur, Colm Boohig. Colm, good morning.
There he is, the Monaghan myth himself, Shane Hannon.
The myth,
Where are you?
the man, the myth, the legend. You've got the River Plate jersey in the background, so you know you're a real football connoisseur. Like, this is,
you know you're a hipster when you have it.
like,
Yeah.
they bring out the big dogs, I think, for the, like, we've had a different member of Team Off the Ball throughout the duration of the European Championships, but
Well, yeah.
the first semi-final and you get the call-up column.
Can I say, thanks for bringing that up, Shane. That's big of you, right? Because can I just make the point that the selection policy has been frankly outrageous? I'm like Jadon Sancho before the Ukraine match. I'd be an unused substitute for the whole group stage, and then out of nowhere, Hannon picks me in the semi-final. I mean, it's testament to the threat you find me, but like, where was I? Where have I'm not match fit. Like,
it's out of my hands, Colm. Like, I'm not making these decisions, as you well know, but it's above my pay grade. But at the same time, it could have been worse. You could have been like Phil Foden, maybe picked in one of the earlier shows and then never invited back because your performance was too poor. So,
but Murphy there on 2 or 3 times, is it? I mean, he's done enough shows as it is.
He has.
You know,
Enda Cole's had a couple as well. Nathan's done a couple. Will O'Callaghan, I think, has made more than one appearance. It could be wrong there. Phil Egan has made 2 as well. But I think I'd prefer to have one semi-final appearance.
One and done.
One proper
one and done. Yeah.
How are you enjoying the tournament so far? Like, this has been a testament to how exciting international football is. A lot of people give out about international football, but I mean, the last few weeks, I assume you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Oh yeah, I mean, France-Switzerland was a kind of where were you sporting moments, because it looked like it was done. The Paul Pogba curler into the top corner, and I think it was actually our own Joe Malloy telling Pat Nevin last night on Off the Ball that he said it to him at that time. Pogba's put it in, France are through, and we're looking on to the next round, and then all hell broke loose. And like, it's been from day one, really. I think the opening game, Italy-Turkey, was interesting just to see Italy fulfill the potential that everybody talked about before. They're on a ridiculous unbeaten run, was it 32 unbeaten, and they've won their last 13. And then you had like Patrick Schick's goal for the Czech Republic against Scotland at Hampden, which I actually think is already overlooked as one of the great international goals. And then you have like one of the most ridiculous own goals I've ever seen. Spain against Croatia, when Pedri had a 35-yard back pass and Unai Simon couldn't control it. And ironically, Simon's in the team because he's a better footballer than David De Gea. So there's just been so many good little pockets of memeable, 30-second cuts on Twitter that you'll see that'll just entertain you. And then if you're really into international football anyway, the matches are sustained enough and substantial enough to really stick with them for the duration. And like, I'm even going as far as enjoying extra time. Like, I'm not a big extra time guy. I think it should go straight to penalties, or else we should have golden goal. But I'm enjoying the whole thing. And I think in the 4 semi-finalists now, with Spain versus Italy tonight and England versus Denmark tomorrow, it's an interesting narrative, whichever way you put it. That's like, whoever's getting to the final, it's going to be really interesting. Maybe with the exception of Spain, who are probably not as talked about as the other 3. But like, whoever gets, like England or Denmark, if England get to their first finals in '66, it's ridiculous. And if Denmark, considering what happened in the first match,
like,
I didn't think they'd complete that match, let alone the tournament.
It was
And
just
look, they are now.
it's a comeback of all comebacks, like, to watch Denmark. And like, I know we've been doing kind of different vignettes over the tournament as well, and like, I spoke to Kim Vilfert, the Denmark Euro 92 legend, and if they can go on and repeat that without, as you said, Christian Eriksen, and after everything that's happened, I mean, there's something to be said for a mentality, a group mentality, and even a nationality, a nation thing. Like, the whole country of Denmark has obviously got behind the team. We see the same in Italy with this Il Gruppo that Roberto Mancini has instilled in the squad, that they're all in it together. There seems to be a big football fever, as there usually is in England as well, behind this team. Gareth Southgate, very, very likeable. A lot of these players are very, very likeable, and even the most ardent anti-English person in Ireland is kind of looking on with a smirk on their face, going, you know what, would you begrudge them? But at the same time, it's just one of those tournaments that you feel good vibes coming from a lot of these teams.
There are good vibes indeed. I find England's situation so intriguing because as we're sitting here right now, Shane, right, they're tantalisingly close to success or failure. Because if England lose to Denmark, right, and it's not a great performance, like, Gareth Southgate could be gone. And yet we're sitting here and England have yet to concede a goal in the tournament. And like, it's funny because Southgate's kind of conservatism favouring approach is ironically so risky, because if he loses, that's it. Like, he's nothing to fall back on because the football hasn't been great. But at the same time, like, right now it is possible that England could win the European Championship without conceding a goal. And the only other country to have ever done that in the international football history is the Ivory Coast at the 1992 African Nations Cup. And they nil-nilled their way through. They got through on penalties mostly.
See, this is the football connoisseur knowledge that I wanted.
You know what I mean?
This is...
And look, they're ratcheting up the records. They scored 3 headers against the Ukraine in the quarterfinal. I think they're the first team to ever do that in the European Championship match. They scored 3 headers in one game. Jordan Henderson scored his first international goal. And Southgate, despite all his criticisms and critics, is picking the right team every time. So, like, do you remember how, like, it was only recent, but it seems so long ago, that, like, his Germany selection was so lambasted. Like, Twitter was going mental. And then, flash forward 2 hours later, and they've won 2-0. It's incredible. I tell you now, like, I've been listening to the show all the way through, Jane, and I know where you stand in England. And
has it been that obvious
for you? It's difficult for you to get more. It's difficult for me too, because I just can't. I won't be able to stand it from Monday onwards if they go and do it. I don't think they will, by the way, but if they do. But I tell you what, I'd be delighted for Gareth Southgate. I really would, because what he's proven in this tournament is that he's his own man, like, and he, you know, as nice and as well as he comes across, and as level-headed as he is, and compassionate and rational, I think he's very stubborn, and he sticks to his principles. And even though I don't really enjoy watching England play that much, I admire him a lot. And I also admire the fact that you actually don't know which team he's going to pick. And I have a funny feeling that against Denmark, he might match them up with a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, and he'll go back to the kind of the Germany style of play. So I think you could have Jadon Sancho out, my lad, and I think Kieran Trippier will come back in, and Kyle Walker will go back to fall into a back three again. I think he's going to be worried because they're so close now, you know.
Oh, tantalisingly close. And like, I have a sneaky feeling for Denmark. Now, don't get me wrong, if England play like they did against the Ukraine, they'll probably beat Denmark. But Ukraine aren't all that good. Now, this is a Ukraine team, bear in mind that, yes, finished top of their qualification group ahead of Portugal, but at the same time, in this tournament, they haven't been all that great. And I think Denmark are a step above that. And I think Denmark, like that good feeling and goodwill that we're speaking about, there's so much of that in this Denmark team. And like, you talk about England not conceding any goals just yet. Kasper Dahlberg's been threatening and scoring a few goals. Kasper Schmeichel and Simon Kjær and Andreas Christensen, they've all been leading from the back as well. There's a lot of dangers in this Danish team. And I mean, look, even if they do beat Denmark, you've got the Italians or the Spanish in the final, but they're by no means into the final already, Colm.
No chance. No, like, I think Denmark's biggest threats have been their wing backs. I think Joachim Mahler and, to a lesser extent, Jens Striger have been excellent, but Mahler's cross against the Czech Republic in the quarterfinal for Kasper Dahlberg's goal. I mean, like, the outside, it was so unnecessary. He could have just crossed it with his left foot, but it was just beautiful with the outside of the right. It was an Antonio Valencia dream at United that he always wanted to do, the outside of the right foot, or a tribute to Luka Modric. But it was such a beautiful cross. And I've noted, Shane, that he's not in your team at the tournament. Is Luke Shaw the left back? I'd have Mila. I'd have Mila there, honestly.
We'll bring up the team of the tournament now, actually. So when you've brought us to the topic, because I have been getting a little bit of abuse for it, but Jan Sommer in goals from the Swiss. The back four, they're just four defenders. I have two left wing backs essentially in the team. Simon Kjaer for Denmark, Giorgio Chiellini for Italy, of course, and Spinazzola, who probably will be out of the team tomorrow, I think, given that he's out injured for the remainder of the tournament and for the coming months. Luke Shaw for England finishes the defensive line. Then midfield, Ferran Torres for Spain, Paul Pogba, France, still in there, Pedri for Spain, and Raheem Sterling for England. And up front, Cristiano Ronaldo and Patrick Schick. It's a decent team, Colm, but I take your criticisms. I mean, there are some players there that are fairly unlucky, I would say, not to be in it. Nicolo Barella, I've got a bit of abuse for not having him in the team. Like Jorginho has been good, Harry Kane has scored some goals already now, Lorenzo Insigne has been good up top for Italy, but it's tough to get them all in.
You gotta take Ronaldo out.
You see, he's still a top scorer. Well, joint top scorer.
Shane, we're going to look foolish in 2 days' time if Ronaldo's still there. We are, as a brand, we're going to look silly.
Yeah.
Ronaldo, like, he already has enough records. Like, we're giving him too much, right? I appreciate that. Was it 5 goals and 1 assist so far?
You see on the screen, Patrick Schick is up there with 5 goals. Benzema and Forsberg and Lukaku on 4, and Shaqiri on 3. Yeah. Like, can you take out the top goal scorer out of the team in the tournament?
I would, yeah. I'm taking him out in anticipation, right, of Harry Kane coming in late.
Yeah.
To take the top scorer. And Shane, I'm by no means picking Harry Kane because I selected him for top goal scorer on the very first day of these Euros. I'll take you back to the 11th of June, Friday morning, when Team OTB made their predictions. Do you remember yours?
I was just going to ask you how your predictions differed from, like, I was France to win, which didn't go to plan. Lukaku to be top goal scorer. He scored 4, close enough, but no cigar. Turkey as my dark horses. The less said, the better. Like, it hasn't been a great tournament prediction wise, but except for the fact that I'm top of the predictions table in terms of matches between myself, Nathan, and Jer. But yeah, how did your predictions differ?
Well, your underperformers were Spain.
Underperformers, right? Oh. Yeah. Does that count as an underperformer? I suppose it does. Yeah. Take that.
I think, your favourite kit was Sweden away, though, so I'll give you that.
God, I had a shocker. Underperformers, Spain. Wow, right.
Yeah. But, right, mine weren't exceptional now by any means, Shane, if I can find them. Yeah. France fell into the trap, like we all did.
Yeah.
I have Harry Kane. Overachiever Spain. Does that count? Does semi-final count as an overachievement for Spain, considering they won Euro 2008 and Euro 2012? But this is a very different Spanish outfit. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this year it probably exceeds expectations to get to the last 4. Maybe not among the Spanish people and the Spanish public, and the Spanish media especially. But I think from I don't think any of us really thought Spain would make the semi-finals, did we? I mean, there was a lot of teams we probably had ahead of them in the pecking order. But no, I'll give you that.
Well, I had England last 16, so that's not great. But, right, I had best player, so I was one of the last people to do it, and we all kind of had similar enough best player, player of the tournament, that is. And I went for it. I went Giorgio Chiellini. And Shane, like, if Italy get to the final and Italy keep a clean sheet in the final and win it, Chiellini could win player of the tournament.
Wow.
Like, this could happen.
I can't remember who I went for. Like, I'm looking at the player of the tournament odds here on Paddy Power. So Raheem Sterling is the favourite at the moment, 10-3. Harry Kane 5-1, second favourite. So they're obviously expecting maybe an English win in this tournament. Simon Kjaer for Denmark is 7-1, third favourite. And then you have Lorenzo Insigne, Jorginho, Sergio Busquets, Nicolo Barella, Joachim Mala, Harry Maguire. I'm trying to see where your boy is, Chiellini. He is 25-1, yeah. 12th favourite, 25-1. Not bad. If Italy win the tournament, of course, he'll rifle up there with a couple of man of the match performances. That's not a bad shout.
Yeah, it was a real hipster shout. I mean, I really didn't believe what I was typing, kind of thing. But it's a good John Duggan tip, isn't it? 35-1 at the semi-finals. Is he 35-1 now?
No, he's 25-1. 25-1.
Yeah. Still.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. But as for the final, right, I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, who can I picture walking out at 7:55 p.m. on Sunday night at Wembley? And the two countries that came to my mind were Italy and Denmark. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's going to be as cliched as Denmark winning on penalties. But I just have this sneaking suspicion, like yourself, that the Danes are going to do this. But I can't tell you how or why they will, because England are doing so well. The only thing against England is they haven't conceded a goal, and if they do, how are they going to react to that? But they're better. Pound for pound, England are a better team than Denmark, so they should go through. But they should have also gone through against Croatia 3 years ago, and they took the lead in that match.
I think what it is that this has been a tournament that has kind of caught us by surprise at some points. Like the France-Switzerland game totally caught us by surprise. As you said, even when France were 3-1 up, you never expected the Swiss to come back. We never expected Spain-Croatia to ultimately go to extra time once it was 3-1 in favour of Spain. Like, there's been some surprising results. Even Austria taking Italy to extra time. The Dutch probably getting out of the group for some people was a surprise. So I think we've got to the semi-final stage now, and the obvious thing to say is, okay, England are going to beat Denmark, Italy are going to beat Spain, and Italy are going to beat England in the final. That's what a lot of people are saying. But it just feels like there's something left undone by this tournament. There's some little surprise up its sleeve, I think.
The only disappointing final would be Spain versus Denmark, I think. And Spain to win 1-0 with the 12th minute Pedri goal, and then they complete 1,765 passes in the last 10 minutes, and it's coming, from like the 70th minute onwards. Denmark aren't going to score, they're out on their feet, and Spain are going to win their third Euros in 4. But I don't think that will happen. I just really can't see Spain going through to the final. But lads, I thought that France were a shoo-in, so you just don't know. It's making mugs of everyone, this tournament, and I love that. I love that about it. But also, how about nearly every match being at Wembley? Every match, the rest of the 3 matches are at Wembley. It's like Wembley featuring 10 other stadia. It's like the Jimi Hendrix experience. It's Jimi Hendrix, and it's the rest of the band with no names. It is. It's like Wembley are just hogging the limelight constantly. Well, it's I know the semi-finals are going to be there.
I know. I brought this up with Damien Delaney yesterday, and I guess some people are on the fence about the multi-venue tournament still. I like the idea of the tournament being spread around Europe, different cities getting to host and feeling that vibe of a tournament. But at the same time, you see teams like Switzerland who've travelled, I think, something like 7,000 miles, versus, as you said, England, who had all of their games essentially in London, except for the game in Rome in the quarterfinals. A little bit unfair. And when we see that the 4 teams in the semi-finals have all had all 3 of their group games at home, where do you sit on the multi-venue format and on the format generally for this tournament?
I was sceptical initially when it was first confirmed years ago. I thought that won't work. And then COVID happened, and I thought, well, it can't work. And now that it's happened, and we live in such a changed world in the last year and a half, that I adapt to any old situation now, and this is unprecedented, and yet at the same time, I like it. I like the fact that sometimes I don't check beforehand which stadium or country a match is going to be in back in the group stages and the early knockout rounds, and you'd be like, oh, it's here, and it's kind of a nice surprise. But I would have liked it if they had chosen 2 different venues for the semi-final and then had the final at Wembley. But overall, I do like the kind of interrailing experience across Europe. I do. I'd be interested to see what happens from here on in, if they'll go back to hosts or if they're going to maintain this from till Kingdom Come. But at the same time, as much as I like this, I would like kind of an Ireland and UK hosted Euros. That would be the dream. And I hope that we get there someday. That would be the ultimate. Can you imagine? Oh,
even the fact that we missed out on hosting that England-Germany game in Dublin was just so gutting, but understandable in the end.
What that would have been, I wonder what that would have been like in the city. Just to have that atmosphere, just how much it would have changed, how we would have covered it. It's when that match was on, that's kind of what I was thinking about while watching it. That could have been here.
There is the element of, okay, yes, England have potentially now a semi-final and final at home, but and you might say, everyone says, well, that makes them heavy favourites at this point. Whatever, some people have different takes on it, but in another sense, it adds a lot of pressure to the weight of England's shoulders, because they're going out in Wembley Stadium in front of their own fans. Yes, that's an advantage in some ways, but the pressure on this team, there's no escaping the London newspapers. There's no escaping the media. They are in London. They're at home. If they don't go on and win this tournament now, they will always look back on this tournament as a missed opportunity, because semi-final, final, London, Wembley, they have to go on and win from this point, in their view, I would say.
Yeah, we said in the 2018 World Cup when they beat Colombia on penalties that this is the best opportunity since Euro '96, certainly. But this is better again. I think that England's biggest obstacle is the fact that they're in the semi-final again, and the semi-final is their curse. It's their Mayo equivalent. You know, they cannot get by this, and I think it will be regarded as a success if England win tomorrow night against Denmark and then lose the final. I think that will go down as progression, depending on how the final goes and the result in the performance. But if it's a relatively close fought final, which I think it will be anyway, I think that will be seen as a success, even though it's on home soil and they lose it. But it's acceptable to lose to Spain and Italy, you know, whichever. But losing to Denmark, that's what I mean. It's so tantalising, as I was saying at the top. Like, if England lose to Denmark, even if it's really close, even if it's on penalties and England dominate the match and just can't score and Denmark go through on penalties, Gareth Southgate will be seen as a failure. That's how intense the next few days are going to be. And that's why it's so fascinating.
And I feel sorry for Gareth Southgate if that does happen, because, I mean, he took them to
Do you not think it will, no?
No, well, semi-finals of the World Cup, semi-finals of the Nations League, semi-finals of the Euros. Like, you don't want to get to this point where it becomes like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for that couple of years where he was taking it out of the semi-finals and not beyond. Like, as you said, the pressure is on. The pressure is on big time. And, I mean, part of me thinks Gareth Southgate gets a raw deal in the English media, and, like, if he was to get sacked or leave his job if they were to lose to Denmark tomorrow night, it would be quite harsh because... Well, I first of all, I don't think it's going to happen because, there's only an 18-month turnaround until the World Cup in Qatar. It would be a little bit silly to sack a manager at this point, but it would still heap pressure because that's a home tournament essentially England have here. Like, it's not on paper officially a home tournament, but Gareth Southgate, those sales of waistcoats went up for a reason in 2018 because people liked him. He's just a likeable character. Say what you want about his managerial pedigree, but... I mean, as you said, he's got a lot of decisions in terms of lineups, very, very right in this tournament.
Well, he's improved since the 2018 World Cup. He's a better manager now. And I also think he's an ideal international manager. I think he's perfect for that job. I think he has the right temperament for it because that job can swallow you up, and Southgate rises above that. And you make a good point that it is such a tight turnaround to the World Cup next year that, yes, it is unlikely that Southgate would be sacked if they lost to Denmark, unless they get pummeled, which they won't. But he will still be seen as a failure. Like, he could continue in the job. I mean, Roy Hodgson was seen as a failure going into Euro 2016, really, that he hadn't done it for them at the previous two tournaments. And yet he still managed England in that tournament. So I don't think Southgate will get the shove, but I think the narrative will change so quickly by the English media. And I think it will be undeserving because Southgate has, first of all, improved the England team. He's making the most of the talent available to him. Maybe not in playing style, but certainly in selection. And number three, and probably most importantly, he's making them likeable for the rest of us, which is some feat. I mean, that is incredible. That's probably, that if I was doing his LinkedIn, that would be top of the page. Has made them likeable.
Yeah, which is like some people on YouTube. The YouTube comments are always fun, as you know, Colm, on our channel. But
love them. Like,
some people giving us a little bit of hate for getting behind this anti-England rhetoric, that maybe myself included, but it's enjoyable to see them lose at some points, and I mean that in the most respectful of ways. I really like this team, as I said. I really like Gareth Southgate, but there's just something about the capitulation in English media and the blame game that starts. It's get your popcorn out time. It's enjoyable, and like, they give out and say, Republic of Ireland fans talk about nostalgia just as much as us. We might talk about 66 and everything else, but you lads harp on about a penalty shootout against Romania in 31 years ago, which is a fair point, but there's just something enjoyable about watching this England team lose, and I mean that respectfully.
Yeah, I would say to the YouTube commenters right now, though, I think we're being pretty fair. I think we're both saying that we really like this England side. We like the manager. We like what they're doing. It's very impressive. They have likeable players. I think the issue that we have is with the English media and how over the top they'll go, which is exactly what we would do if we won the thing. And I totally acknowledge that. But, I mean, that's the beauty of football. It's irrational. These are the feelings you feel. And there is nothing better than England going very far and then losing. But it's just purely enjoyable as a footballing viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Well, I think I really by the way, I really hope England win tomorrow night, because I would love to see them in the final. I would love to see what would happen we've never seen it, England in the final of a tournament. I want to see that happen. And if they won it, I wouldn't hate it, but I would find it difficult to take in the celebrations beyond the players and the manager, of course.
Very, very diplomatic. I see what you did there. That's a fair point. A fair point. No, I see both sides. Like, England getting to a major final would definitely up the ante from this point of view, and from an interest point of view as well. It would just make it more exciting in some ways. Richard Dunn, the former Republic of Ireland international and Manchester City captain, is with us now in the Euro 2020 show. Morning, Richard. Don't think he's there. He's not there yet. He'll be there in a moment, Colm. I'm dying to get his take on the England situation, because this is not something that like Damien Delaney was interesting yesterday. He was speaking before the quarterfinals and said, I want them to beat the Ukraine and then lose to Denmark, because then the ante is up, the pressure is up. Their hopes and expectations are up even more, which is a little bit cruel. I understood that, but some people have been warmed to this England team because Eamon Dunphy was firmly before the Germany game, really do not want England to win this game. And then as soon as the German game was over, he was like, nope, all on board. Kieran Bradley was offering to send him over an England jersey as well after the match, and he was fully on the bandwagon. So, like, have you noticed in your WhatsApp groups and your friend groups people's opinions kind of changing about the England team as the tournament progressed?
Yeah, they are full of likeable players who play good football. If you just look at them as a football team, they're very likeable. They're many people's favourites in terms of their actual favourite team left. What I'm interested now is picking Southgate's team ahead of tomorrow night, and I'm just trying to think of what they'll do. I really think he's going to go to 3 centre backs and match up Denmark. I think he's going to go Stones, Maguire, Walker. I think he'll go Trippier, Shaw. I was thinking he might have brought Jordan Henderson back in, but he'd be mad, even by Southgate standards, that he mixes it up a lot. I think he'd be mad to break up Rice and Phillips now. I think that would be a crazy decision. But I don't think he will. He
has a lot of decisions to make between now and tomorrow night. I'm sure he's made some of them already, but a lot of that. It shows strength and depth, I guess, and they're good decisions to have to make. I think we have Richard Dunn on the line now. Morning, Richard.
Morning, lads.
Richard, we're having a chat about England here, and I guess the looking into our crystal balls at what next Monday might look like the morning after England have potentially won the European Championships. Are you dreading that prospect, welcoming that prospect? Where do you sit on the whole England thing at the moment?
I don't mind. I'm just enjoying watching them play. I think the way they've performed, they certainly deserve to be where they are at the moment. And I look at Denmark and I don't really see them stopping them. And then fingers crossed, it just makes for a good final, whether it be Spain or Italy. And if England win it, they deserve it. I think it's been a long time in coming. They've done things right in terms of producing young players, and the squad that they have at the moment is.
We've just lost Richard's line there briefly. He was saying he's optimistic about this English team. Like, Colm, that's a fair assessment, and I don't know what challenge Denmark pose other than heart and desire. Like, I'm kind of coming at the Denmark angle from a non-footballing point of view, but I can see how England fans will be fully optimistic heading into this game. I've heard predictions as wide ranging as 3-0 England and 2-0 Denmark for this game, so it's not an easy one to call.
Yeah, no, I do think that Denmark are more threatening than that. I think, as I say, the wing backs, Milan Striger, they're not as good footballers as Shaw and Walker or Trippier, whoever plays, but they've had such an impressive tournament and they're bombing up those flanks. And then you have Kasper Dahlberg, who's in great form. And I really like the midfield pairing of Højbjerg and Delaney. So I think they're more dangerous than we're giving them credit for individually. But I just think England, pound for pound, are a much better side. So there's no rational reason that England should lose this match. And I think the only way they're going to lose it is mentally, because of the fact that it's a semi-final and it's at Wembley and everybody's saying it's their best chance to get to a final. It's not to say that Denmark won't grind out, possibly into extra time, because that back three is looking very good. It's looking more impressive with each passing game.
Very solid
for Denmark. That is. So it's not like, I think they're better than we're giving them credit for, Denmark. like if they win tomorrow night, I'm not going to be shocked. I really won't be.
I think we have Richard again on the line. Sorry, Richard, your line interrupted there for a brief second. You were saying football could be coming home?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they've got a really good opportunity. They've got a strong squad. They've got a good manager, and I think in tournaments, I think it comes down to confidence and being in.
I think we've lost Richard's line again there. It's not the best of lines, but we'll try and get him back. We'll hang up and dial him back now in just a second. Colm, I guess if we look at Spain, Italy then tonight, 8 o'clock as well in Wembley, like Spain's attacking hasn't been fantastic, and I say that knowing that they have the most attacks and probably the most passes of any team in the tournament, but Alvaro Morata in front of goals, and then even when he's replaced off the bench by Gerard Moreno, I mean, they're not taking as many chances as they could be, and this Italian defence is so strong that you struggle to see how Spain are going to score goals unless Morata has the game of his life.
Luis Enrique's Spain team is such an odd size. Like, they've scored 12 goals at this Euros, right? Which is the same amount of goals they scored at Euro 2008 and Euro 2012 when they won it. And yet they had only scored 1 goal by the start of the third game in this Euros. They're a side who create bundles of chances and then are terrified to take them. And I think if Alvaro Morata is your main goal-scoring threat, you are in trouble, because the worst aspect of his game is finishing, which is not ideal for a centre-forward. But otherwise, I actually think he's a brilliant player. His movement is excellent. He's technically very good at holding it up. He's probably better again when facing the goal. He brings other players into the game. So he actually does an awful lot that you want your number 9 to do. The only way I could see Spain winning this against Italy is the fact that Morata plays with Chiellini and Bonucci at Juventus, so knows them. So will know them better than Lukaku because he trains with them every day. So he might be able to, first of all, get the better of them himself and then advise the likes of Ferran Torres or Dani Olmo, whoever plays alongside him. Look, they're kind of weak at this. They're not the fastest. If we come at them fast, we might catch a break here and there. Like Belgium were able to get at Italy. They really were. That first 10 or 15 minutes, Belgium were the better side, and they came back into it again a bit at the end of the end of the first half. So it's not like Italy are infallible, but they have such a dominating record in the last 32 games that it is intimidating to play against. But Spain are just strange. Like, if you look at them individually, it's not a vintage Spain side at all. Especially the further you go up the pitch. I actually think their back four is excellent. I would say their back four is almost better than Italy's. When you look at it on paper, we have Azpilicueta, Laporte, Garcia and Alba just as a unit. I think Chiellini and Bonucci are the best centre-halves by far, but now with Spinazzola gone, Di Lorenzo's okay at right back for Italy. I think Emerson will come in at left back for Spinazzola. So I think the Spanish fullbacks are better. Since Busquets came back into the team after his COVID scare, they've been much, much better. Pedri is excellent. Koke is a fantastic player. I actually think it's the front three that are at their weakest. So that could define it. Yeah,
like, I know even for the Swiss goal, like, there was a bit of a defensive mix-up between Laporte and Pau Torres, which led to that goal. And one worry for me, I don't know if you agree, is the fact that, you know, they had that extra man for so long against Switzerland, the entirety of extra time, and they weren't able to close that game out and take any of their chances. And with the man advantage, still couldn't beat a Swiss team that, okay, knocked out France, but still aren't, you know, one of the world's best teams, you would say, on paper. So is that a worry for Spain, that, you know, if they can't close out a team like Switzerland with an extra man for, you know, 35-40 minutes, how are they going to beat an Italy team in general?
It's and Switzerland went down to 10 men as well. And like, the penalty shootout was atrocious by both sides, so it could easily have gone either way. But I was delighted that Spain got through, because I wanted to see them into the semi-final. I wanted to see them play Italy or Belgium at the time. But it's a good point. The one thing with Spain, I would say, is because of their recent history in playing big matches, I would fancy them to play much better against Italy than against Switzerland. You know, I think they went into the Switzerland match knowing that they were by far the favourites, even though Switzerland had performed so brilliantly against France, that like Spain knew that this would have been a disaster had they lost to Switzerland. So with Italy, they're the underdogs. I think that will suit them, because this is not a vintage Spain squad. And also you have the added fascination of the recent history between these two sides at the Euros. So Spain beat them in Euro 2008 in penalties. They beat them hammered them in the final in 2012. But Italy got revenge in 2016, knocked them out in the last 16, 2-0. So it adds spice to it, you know. But if Spain win, I'm shocked. Like if Spain win, I'm texting you being like, I did not see this coming, and I'm not that happy about it either, because I really want Italy to get to the final. I want to see Italy one up in the final against whoever they play, and just introduce the shithousery for the last few minutes. I think we all want to see it.
Oh, completely. We might touch on that Italian shithousery now in just a second after this. I just want to bring you the Paddy Power Trader video. So we've got plenty of odds ahead of this match tonight, of course. Italy, Spain, 8 p.m. in Wembley. Have a look.
Big Euro 2020 action this Tuesday evening, kicking off at 8 o'clock in Wembley. It couldn't get much bigger than Italy against Spain. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Emmett O'Keefe, Paddy Power's football trader, joins me. Emmett, I have a few quid on Italy. Is my money safe?
I think you're pretty happy where you are, but I think this will probably be the most difficult opposition Italy have faced so far. I think it's funny because Spain's stats are overwhelmingly good. They have the most big chances created of any team in the tournament, highest expected goals, very high shot count, all that. But just from watching them, all doesn't seem right, and they definitely certainly have defensive vulnerabilities with Switzerland and Croatia exposed. I think this game is too close to call. I would lean Italy, but if you look at these two teams, 3 of their 4 knockout stage games have gone to extra time, and a draw is currently the biggest price of the 3 outcomes in the match betting. And I think that's the way I'd look if you're looking for a bet on the match.
Okay, a draw. I don't know if my heart will hold up for the extra time and the penalties, but hoping the men in Navy qualify. But listen, I like having a goal scorer bet. Will you give us a quick shout on somebody to hit the back of the net?
Yeah, if you're looking for, I think probably throw a 5 or a 10 on something, the first goal scorer market, I like Leonardo Bonucci to score first. He had a goal disallowed against Belgium, which would have been the first goal, and he's generally quite a big threat at set pieces, and what could be kind of a tight, low-scoring game. I could easily see seeing a set piece be the difference. So Leonardo Bonucci to score first.
So Bonucci to score first, the match to finish in a draw at the end of 90 minutes, and hopefully the Italy to qualify. As always, it's a pleasure. Emmett O'Keefe from Paddy Power. Thanks, Emmett.
Yeah, Leonardo Bonucci, an interesting potential anytime goal scorer for this game this evening. Colm, you mentioned the shithousery of the Italian defence beforehand there, like Chiellini and Bonucci. I know as a football purist you will probably enjoy seeing defenders celebrating a block like they did against that Lukaku block late on against Belgium on Friday night, like it was a goal. I mean, this was taking it to the next level.
Was it just me, or did Spinazzola know nothing about that and he got a massive amount of credit for it? I think he turned his back to it and it just hit him. But look, that's as good as a goal for the Italian defenders. And I mean, I loved Chiellini anyway going into that match, and it just backed up every reason why I love him. I mean, when he was hugging Axel Witsel too, when they had handbags in the penalty area and talking to the ref. And there was one point actually in the first half when Kevin De Bruyne took a shot. Did you see that? It was a kind of low daisy cutter, and Chiellini headed it away, and it went out for a corner or a throw, and the camera went on De Bruyne, and he was smiling, and it flipped over to who he was smiling at, which is Chiellini, and he nodded back to him, saying, like, I love that I just did a diving header and cleared it when I could have easily just cleared it with my foot. But it was the best, it was, he's like a likeable John Terry, is the best way I could describe Chiellini, in that he puts himself everywhere, and he's also world-class at defending, and he's a fantastic leader, and he has this amazing ability to galvanise not just his teammates but the watching world to support Italy, because he's so pure in his love of defending and so passionate about his country and about his club, about Juventus winning, and what's not to like about it. And then you have the slightly more sophisticated partner in Bonucci, but who is still equally as hard and happy to get his head stuck in and will win at all costs. And then you have, a goalkeeper, Donnarumma, who that save against De Bruyne in the first half, when like that is one of those things when you're watching as a TV viewer. I always say, like, for me, if a goal goes in, the way I would say about a goalkeeper is, if it went in, I wouldn't blame him if he didn't save it, because it was such a good shot. And that was one of those ones with De Bruyne. And I'd be harsh enough on goalkeepers. I kind of usually feel, they should have saved that. But when De Bruyne was running through, it was a good angle on the TV, coming in from the right, switching to his left foot. We've seen him do that so many times for Man City, but it's still very hard to stop. And when he was going for the far corner, a bit like Insigne did eventually, I was like, that's a goal. And then Donnarumma to tip it behind. So the mark of a great Italy side is having a brilliant goalkeeper, and they have that, and they have their two excellent defenders, and just they're littered. As I said, outside of Spinazzola, I don't think they're great at full back, but their midfield three is fantastic. Like Locatelli can't get into the team, and he was brilliant in the group stages. And then their front three, they don't have, I wouldn't say any stars out of Chiesa, Insigne, or Immobile, but they're all equally brilliant. They're all like just in the same level of brilliance. Probably one rung under being absolutely elite, world class Ronaldo, Messi, but under that rung where they're such a threat and they're roughly about the same ability. Maybe Chiesa, the most naturally gifted, but there's just so much to latch onto. And against Belgium, they played brilliant football, which they have been doing under Roberto Mancini. They have Gianluca Vialli in the camp. He's come through his illness to come back. It's just great to see images of him and the two of them embracing Mancini and Vialli against, was it Austria at Wembley when they scored the decisive goal. And then the video of Spinazzola coming in the crutches to the team dinner the morning after the Belgium match, and just every one of them embracing. And this is standard human behaviour. Every country would do it, but it just helps to build to the support that we all have for Italy, or that most people have. And it's why I would happily see them as champions, because they would be worthy winners.
There's just something, there is something eminently likeable about them. Like, aside from the Ciro Immobile lying on the ground, waiting for the goal to hit the ball to hit the back of the net before he realised he wasn't injured, all of a sudden, dramatically and magically. The fact that they were such a free-flowing attacking team in the group stages, and then could turn around and transform that into grinding out a win in Munich the last day. Like, they can play in different ways. Whatever way the game is thrown at them, they can adapt. Like, a lot of credit has to go to the man you mentioned there, Roberto Mancini. What an achievement this would be for him if he could take this Italian team. They haven't won the Euros in, I think it's since the 60s, 68 possibly, since they last won the Euros. Yeah. So, like, this will be huge for Italy. And like, we spoke to Paddy Agnew in this show towards the start of the Euros, and he was talking about the impact this has on the country, the fact that Bergamo and different cities had such a massive death toll with COVID. The whole country is behind this team, needs it for that feel good factor, for something to latch on to, for something to feel good about. And I mean, Roberto Mancini is the man leading them towards this tournament, and I mean, his achievement cannot be understated.
No, and he left the Premier League with a bad reputation when he departed the Manchester City job. Fell out with an awful lot of players, which we've heard about subsequently, even though he delivered the Premier League and the FA Cup for them. But and he kind of meandered a bit, by his standards. And he's taken up an Italy side who failed to qualify for the last World Cup, and he's just made them a really attractive international team to watch. And actually, as much as we're loving this tournament and international football has a real feel-good factor at the moment and a resurrection, a lot of people were cynical about it, about players not caring enough. And having said all that about the redemption of it, is that there actually are, I would say, few enough countries who play really brilliant football. Because, international football is part-time, they don't play together an awful lot as a team. But Mancini, to his immense credit, has gelled this national side into a club side. They're so familiar with each other, the way they play. There's always an option on the ball. Always. They remind me of the Manchester United treble-winning side. I thought the best attribute that United side had was there was always an option for a man on the ball. And, just countless examples subsequently in the intervening 20-odd years. But with Italy, I see that too, in that they're never isolated. And that's more than just team spirit. That's real tactical nous and technical capabilities to pull it off. So they have a lovely balance throughout them. And like, you are right, they do not have a good recent record at the Euros. Speaking of the vignette there at the top of the show, you did the Denmark 92 one. I just did the France 2000 one. And Italy had that wrapped up. They had that won until Sylvain Wiltord equalised in the last kick of the game. And then they lost in golden goal. And then 12 years later, they got absolutely hammered by Spain in the final. So they need this, Like, Italy can't go this long without winning the Euros, and it's been, 15 years since their last international win at all. So they're due one, and they would be deserving of it. But what I really hope for more than anything, and like I enjoy the Spain team, I enjoy the unpredictability of them. I think their biggest asset is their manager, Luis Enrique, who's brilliant. I think the Denmark story, as we all know, is phenomenal. I mean, that is just the way that they've reacted to what happened to Christian Eriksen is just unparalleled. I mean, I've never seen a team react like that so well. And as much as I really appreciate what Spain and Denmark have done in this tournament, I really want to see an Italy-England final. and and I hope that happens, because I'm not 100% confident in it happening, but I hope it happens. What about you? What do you want to see on Sunday?
I see what you mean. I see the logic behind wanting to see an Italy-England final. It's a bit close for comfort to England winning the tournament for me. I think I'm staying true to my colours here. I think an Italy-Denmark final could be surprisingly good. Now, Italy-England, we're so close to England geographically that we just think of, and we all follow Premier League teams, so we all know these players so well. So from that point of view, it probably would make it more exciting for us to see an Italy-England final. I definitely get that. An Italy-England final, an Italy-Denmark final is, I think, a decent game as well. Just Italy in general. I just want to see more of Italy. Give me more of Italy, please. Like, I don't want this tournament to end. Like, the unbeaten record is just fascinating. And look, we're talking about what England lineup might line out against Denmark. I'd be very, very intrigued to see, hypothetically, what lineup they'd have against the Italians in a final on Sunday. Like,
be the same.
You wanted to touch on England 11s. Like, how are you? Like, I'm looking at the team here from the Ukraine game. I'm essentially, like, I wouldn't make many changes. Jordan Pickford's been incredible in goals. He's had he's been so different at club level for Everton in recent years. There's always a mistake in him, but I mean, he's had an incredible tournament, as you said, hasn't conceded. Like, the back four: Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw. Maguire's been just immense this whole tournament. Real leader, has really stood up. Luke Shaw, a couple of assists against Ukraine. I mean, the holding two, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, I wouldn't change. Like, they had Sancho, Mount and Sterling behind Kane against Ukraine. I bring out Mount and put in Grealish. Keep Sancho on the right. I think he's earned his place. And I would put Grealish in. It's very attacking, maybe. Sterling at left, of course. He's been the player of the tournament for them in many ways. And Harry Kane is starting to score goals. So, for me, Grealish cannot be left out of this team, nor can Jadon Sancho at the moment.
Why did Grealish not play a minute against Ukraine?
I honestly don't know. Like, the only logical thing in my head is that I know Phil Foden, some people said that, maybe he was on a yellow card and they wanted to hold him back and keep him for the later rounds in the tournament. Jack Grealish possibly the same, that maybe he's just sharing the love, spreading the minutes. Not that Jack Grealish should be tired or feeling the effects of the tournament so far, because he's only had, certain amount of minutes in his legs. I don't know. Like, it could be the case that he really brings him to life in this semi-final and final, and this is Jack Grealish's time to shine. I can't see how Jack Grealish can be left out of any England 11.
Oh, I can see it, because I think Southgate will do it.
Really?
I would be borderline shocked if Jack Grealish starts against Denmark. I'm talking about from Southgate's perspective here. I mean, first of all, how about Phil Foden? He was the most talked about player coming into this tournament, and he had the Gaza haircut from Euro 96. It was all set up to be a Phil Foden tournament, and we've barely seen him since the group stages. It's amazing what happens. Like, that's another way that this Euros has been so unpredictable. But I think he's only going to make one change from the Ukraine match.
Call it, go on.
That's Kieran Trippier in for Jadon Sancho.
Right.
And I think he's going to match up Denmark. As I said earlier, I think he'll go three at the back. I think he's fearful of Denmark's wing backs, and I think he'll want to dominate Højbjerg and Delaney in the middle. So I think he'll want the Rice-Phillips partnership to continue as it is. There's no way he's dropping Mason Mount. No chance. Because Mount is so important to him going backwards. He made a crucial interception actually against Ukraine, because Ukraine came into that game very briefly at the end of the first half, and it was 1-0.
Yeah.
And Mount was crucial to preventing not a certain goal, but a very good chance anyway. Don't think there's any way Mount's not playing. Sterling's obviously a shoe, and so is Kane. And I think that's it. So I think they're going to go Trippier right wing back, Shaw left wing back, Walker, Stones, Maguire, and then Mount just ahead of Phillips and Rice, with Kane and Sterling up top. I thought maybe Bukayo Saka would play, but we haven't seen him since the Germany match. But I think they're so close now that Southgate won't risk it. I mean, if he kept Sancho in the team first of all, and then introduced Grealish, that would be remarkable. I mean, is that what you want to see, or is that what you think Southgate will do?
No, it's kind of what I want to see, to be fair. Like, I see the logic in your selection probably more so, in that Sancho really, really exciting going forward, and Manchester United fans should and will be very, very excited at the prospect of him tearing up Old Trafford next year, but or later this summer even. But yeah, Trippier tracking back, like, Sancho defensively wasn't fantastic against the Ukraine. that would be dangerous, as you said, with the wing backs against Denmark. So maybe Trippier is a more obvious and safer choice. We've got a few messages in here, Colm. So Tom Courtney says, Shane, you shouldn't be allowed to pick an English team as you'd only pick one to lose. Which is
a good point.
It's a fair.
You've gone kamikaze there on that team. It's outrageous.
I picked a decent team. Yeah, I picked a decent team.
It's great to look at.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's not true. That's not true, Tom Courtney. To be fair, I love, as I said, I love this England team. I just don't want to. Not wanting them to win the tournament is not based on the team or the manager. It's based on what is inevitably going to be the English cultural and media reaction to winning this tournament. So that's all I'm saying. I have nothing wrong with this England team. Easy Ollie says, it's coming home, boys. Tell you what, Ollie, you mightn't be far off. He says, imagine us leaving Europe, then coming back in to win their football tournament. That is that's a fair point. Shifty lad, really enjoyed the Euros, and I'm one for hating International Week. I suppose it's because of disappointment. It's joyful football. Best of luck to the last 4 teams. That's a fair point. Like, the international football gets a bad name, but it's been blown wide open by this tournament, Colm.
Oh yeah, it's like, do you know what defines it for me? How enjoyable this Euros has been. I saw Bruno Fernandes there in midfield for Portugal, and then it led me to think about Manchester United, and I was like, I'm just so sick of club football. I'm just so sick of the Premier League and the scrutiny that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer receives, and he's not good enough to manage United, and it just never ends. And I'm like, there's just something so pure about international football in comparison, because there are no transfers and the players really seem to care, and they're also playing lovely football because they've been playing non-stop ball since they resumed play after the first COVID wave last May. It's just non-stop, so they're on autopilot. It's like, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it, because they're playing the football that we want to see, because they don't have the energy to be compact.
Yeah.
And they're just going gung-ho like a game of Astro, which when you have 10 minutes left and the next team's waiting to go on. But it's at the highest level of that, and that's why it's so enjoyable. And you're watching just excellent players, and also you're watching the best that each country has to offer. And that's why people say, the international football is so difficult. And it's great to see. It's and it's just added up, and there's been so many storylines. Obviously, we've had one that trumps anything else, non-football, but even within the football, like I was saying, the shit goal against Scotland, Shane. People should be talking about that every day.
Peach. Just play it on repeat.
Every day. Every day.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the highlights of my tournament for sure. I'll rifle through some more of these comments. Jack's Army says, nice to see Richard's connection wasn't as solid as he was when wearing green for Ireland. That's a fair point. We'll have to get Richard done on another day. His connection, unfortunately, just didn't hold up this morning, unfortunately, but we'll get him again. Give it socks. Is this Italy team more likeable than the one with Pirlo, Del Piero and Totti? I mean, that's like choosing between 2 of your favourite children. That's nostalgic reasons probably sends us back to that team.
It's not as likeable. It's not. But that's nothing against the current side. Nothing against them at all.
Not at all. Scott Runner says both Italy and Spain have shown Ireland that we don't need another Robbie Keane. Forwards are a thing of the past, which is a fair point. I mean, it's been a strange tournament for forwards. It's been, as you said, a cracking tournament for own goals. Really one of the best tournaments we'll ever see for own goals, I think. Connor Cassidy, I think the English football team is like US politics and elections. Seems to be a heightened interest in it from the general public. Very fair point, Connor. David Murphy, Denmark did beat this English team in the Nations League not too long ago. Denmark are more than capable of beating them again, even without their best player in Eriksson, and that's a very fair point. I think they drew 0-0 in Copenhagen, and a Christian Eriksen penalty beat England 1-0 at Wembley. The first win at Wembley, I think, since '83. Harry Maguire and I think Mason Mount were sent off in that match, but I mean, taking 4 points out of 6 off them in the Nations League shows that Denmark certainly have England's number in recent times, and at Wembley as well. I just want to get your predictions in 1 second, Colm, your score predictions, because myself, Ger and Nathan have been doing our predictions across the tournament, and we can get our predictions up for later today. So I'm on 23 points, Ger on 20, Nathan on 18. We've made it interesting though, so a point for predicting who wins, and then an extra point if you predict the correct score. So my lead could come under threat if things go certain ways for Ger and Nathan. So I've gone with Italy 2-1 in normal time this evening. Ger has gone for a draw in normal time and then Italy to win on penalties, and Nathan has opted for Italy to win 1-0 after extra time. So what outcome and scoreline are you going for here, Colm, tonight?
Italy and 2-0 within the normal time.
Within the 90, right? That would be an impressive. That would be the type of performance that I think we wouldn't see either England or Denmark usurping in a final if they can play like that, for sure. Like England-Denmark then, scoreline wise, like you said, you'd love to see an Italy-England final, but Denmark are always a threat. So how do you see that game going tomorrow night?
Oh, it's so difficult saying. Like, it's so difficult. I was saying, who could I picture? I said Italy, Denmark. I'll stick with this. I don't know how Denmark are going to win this game, but I think they might. So I'm going to go, or I'll go Denmark penalties. I'll go Denmark penalties.
Love it. A bit of confidence there in that shout. Colm, great stuff this morning. Really, like, the semi-final appearance has been one of the big appearances by any member of Team Off the Ball, so you should be proud. Like, forget not being called up earlier in the tournament. Now is what matters. So appreciate all that this morning. Fair play.
It'll be in my book, Shane. Cheers. Cheers.
Colm Boohig there, our own Colm Boohig. Great stuff as always this morning. If you missed any of that show, of course, the full podcast will be up very shortly on the OTB Sports app, as you can always get the OTB Sports app. Download it for free in the App Store, the Play Store as well, if you haven't already. I assume by now you will have. You hear us harping on about it enough. You can watch the episode back as well, youtube.com/Off the Ball. Plenty of clips and best bits from the show as well on our Twitter and Instagram @Off the Ball. Myself on Twitter @ShaneHannon01. As always, the Euro 2020 show on Off the Ball in association with Paddy Power, their Save Our Game campaign that's donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England score at the Euros. 8 goals so far, which means €80,000 in the kitty. So maybe they'll add to that tomorrow night against Denmark. And we'll see. Look, Italy, Spain this evening from 8 p.m. Enjoy that at Wembley, and enjoy England, Denmark tomorrow night. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow Wednesday morning from 11 a.m. again in the company of Karen Duggan, excellent pundit, former Irish international, current Peamount United midfielder as well. Always great insight from Karen. So looking forward to that tomorrow morning. So same time, same place tomorrow morning. Enjoy Italy, Spain this evening. Have a good one.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power's Save Our Game. England's goals total 80k so far for Irish football. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.